Here we go once again. This is probably the 6th or 7th take. People just came out of nowhere and wanted to walk towards here, even though they didn't have to. There's like this huge area right here, as you can see. This is the park from last time, and I was a little mad, I would lie, because this is like the 7th take, and I was already pretty far in the other take. But now that I see the park around me is pretty empty, so we should be good. We should be golden for the next 30 minutes. Hopefully that takes that long. Or maybe we could condense it shorter, but I don't think so. Well, anyway, we're here to give thoughts on another story. I was supposed to do another video like last week, but I was a little lazy, so I just waited to finish the Eminence in Shadow. That's the story for today. I decided to just finish it up and do the next video whenever I finish this one. And I'll just give you a nice good look at the cover. And we'll go from there. Page should be around 235 pages. The book should be 235 pages. Market value, retail value price is $20 US or 26 Canadian. That's what it says on the book. That's how much I paid for it. Sadly, I got it on Amazon instead of Right Stuff. I don't remember why, but on Right Stuff it should be like $17.99 or $15.99. So if you want to get like a big haul and you could wait, just get your stuff on Right Stuff. But if you want it now and you want just like one book, go to Amazon. So we'll just go on with the story now. We're actually, Bride of Demise was 9, if I believe so. Or was it an 8.5? One of those two. But I think this one, I'll give it an 8.5 or an 8. The story had to be intrigued, but it didn't have me as intrigued as in the Bride of Demise. So that's why I give it like an 8 or 8.5. Like, I would say it's as enjoyable as Bride of Demise, or even a little bit less, but they're pretty close. But okay, let's get into this. So the story is about Sid Cogano. That's his name that's his name after he gets reincarnated into his new life. So once he gets reincarnated, or before he gets reincarnated, he had a dream of always being like, what does he say, a shadow broker. And it's like this person who lurks in the shadows and is overpowered, and he's always wanted to be that type of person. So he trained in his regular life, and then once he knew that he wasn't getting nowhere because it's the real world, he decides to try to reincarnate himself or something like that. I don't remember how it went down, but he ends up getting hit by a truck and he gets reincarnated. And then that's where he starts his brand new life, and he grows up and he starts killing from the shadows, ridding the world of evil, I guess. And he has a sister, Claire Cogano. Is that how it goes through? No, okay, yeah. He has a sister called Claire Cogano, and that's his older sister. And then on one of the days he's going out to kill people, he meets like human traffickers or something. I don't remember. But then once he kills them all, he finds a cage full of like flesh. And that's where we're introduced to the term. Oh my god, I don't remember the term. Oh no. Maybe I could find it, but the term is something about, oh no. The term is, so it's like flesh. Like humans, because of their magic, would turn into like flesh, rotting flesh. And that's where he finds, there you go, we found where it should be. Oh my god, it's not gonna tell me. Well, anyway, we took too long. I'm doing this again, but whatever. So it's like they start rotting, and they start turning into like flesh. Basically, it's all flesh, and he takes the rotting flesh because it was once human and does experiments on it, and that's where he accidentally, I believe, reverses the effects and basically heals the girl, and it's this blonde elf, naked, I guess. Maybe I have to add that fact. It's this blonde elf, and you know, it's your typical, you saved my life, so I'll repay you and stuff like that. So he tells stories. He makes up a story that coincides with history that's happened in that world before. So the cult of Diablos and Diablos King or whatever, and that's where he comes up with the lie that there's the group cult of Diablos trying to resurrect the Diablos again. That was a mouthful, but yeah, they're trying to resurrect the Diablos, and then she believes the story, and so that is the first recruit of the Shadow Garden, which is the group that we follow in the story, and her name is Alpha. And so that now after that they start training, and like 2 years pass or something after that, and no. Okay, hopefully that the camera got messed up. Alright, we're just gonna have to leave it like that. Well, I'll go pick something up. I'll still keep talking. So, yeah, 2 years pass from Alpha, something like that. 2 years pass from finding Alpha and recruiting her. And then, when Claire Cogano, at the age of 15, is supposed to go to the royal capital for school, that's where she gets kidnapped. And no one knows who's the kidnapper, and no one knows why they kidnapped her. And so, this is where it's not that confusing, and it's not that much of a problem, but at first I was like, what's happening? Because Sid is then introduced again, and then they're introduced that the Shadow Garden has a... Whoa. I'm sorry, B. Oh, God, that was scary. Well, then the bee just came at me very slowly for some reason, actually. But anyway, that's where you're introduced to the whole organization of the Shadow Garden, because they're already there. Like 2 years later, like first you're reading that Alpha barely joins, and then like the next chapter you're reading that it's already been established and there's like 7 members. And that's where you're introduced to Beta and Alpha again. Alpha again, Beta for the first time. And I think you're only introduced to those 2 people. So then, you know, they do all this research and they find out that it's the Code of Diablos, and Sid is thinking, oh, they're making all this stuff up and to play along with the little lie, or the big ass lie that he told. But to them, it's like for real, and to him, it's like a big ruse and a big lie, and that they're setting up. But he thinks they know that as well. They know it's a big ruse, but to them, it's real. So then they find Claire because they stole her, and then that's where he connects, or that's where you find out that the Cult of Diablos is real. And then they say, like, or I guess it's like, I don't know. He's like supposed to be smart, but he's like also ignorant. But it's whatever. Like that's where he's like, oh, I'm here to take down the Code Diablos. And he's like, oh, how do you know that name? And then, yeah, he defeats him. The fights, I don't really like the fights because, like, same as with Overlord. Like, the fights, they're kind of whack. Because, you know, Sid Kagano is going to win. He wins every fight without any trouble. So it's a matter of fact of them talk. Like, the fight is usually they talk, he beats them, they keep talking, and then he finally, like, beats him because he feels like it. Like, I'm like that kind of, like, it's kind of boring and it kind of takes up time, so that's why I don't really like the fights, and they usually follow the same pattern, except for, well, they follow the same pattern, but there's one fight that's pretty cool, but that's because it was short. Anyway, so they retrieve Claire Kagano, and she goes off to school, and then it's 2 years later, and now it's time for Sid to go to school. And once he gets, he's already there, and there he meets the second princess or something. What was her name? Alexia Midgard. And I like her. You know, she's a tsundere, and, you know, I mean, she's like a tsundere that isn't too annoying. And I like her character. Other than that, it's like the characters, there really isn't that much there. Like, it's your typical, oh, my older sister is better, and she thinks that. So, like, you kind of know for the most part where it's going to go, but, you know, her character development is not done, so there's always more to it. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And then her sister, Iris, is like the princess, you know, like she doesn't know why Alexia hates her or whatever, and she's the caring sister, you know, another typical trope. What I'll tell you right now is that it's full of tropes, but that's the story. It's like full of tropes, but that's how he wants it to be. He did it on purpose. But anyway, so then, you know, Sid is in his first year, and he's trying to be this average person so that no one suspects. He's supposed to be the side character to the main protagonist, and he's with his three friends, and he's trying to be normal, and then they like dare him to date Alexia Midgard, and she says yes, but then it turns out that it's supposed to be like a fake date or fake boyfriend and girlfriend to stave off her potential fiance. And then this is where another trope comes. The potential fiance ends up being one of the bad guys. Like, it was predictable, but, you know, that's what I said. Like, you're supposed to turn off your brain a little bit. Like, I know it's hard. You're supposed to turn on your brain to read. Then you're also supposed to turn off your brain so you don't, like, find, like, the story predictable or anything like that. But he does a good job of, like, making it interesting even though it's predictable, so. Except for the fights. I can't deny it. The fights are very boring, but anyway, yeah, so they date, and then the date, what was that? They date, and then they talk about stuff, and I liked, my favorite part is when they're talking, when anyone's talking, except for when they're talking in fights, because this is boring. Because they're talking about the fight, and you don't care about the fight because you already know Sid is gonna win. So, So I like that when they're talking, when Sid is talking to Alexia, or Alexia is talking to Sherry. You'll be introduced to Sherry later, or when Alpha is talking to Beta, or when Nu is talking to Gamma. But yeah, I just love when they're talking. So he does a good job with the banter between each character, between character to character. And so when they're talking, they get to know each other, and then I guess Alexia starts to kind of like him or something, but Sid doesn't know that. So then Sid says something that, I don't remember, it got her mad or something, so like Alexia was like, oh, I'll walk by myself and stuff like that. And then that's where she gets stolen. And this is like the first arc, because there's like 3 arcs or 4. So the first arc is when Alexia gets stolen, or you could say it's Claire Kagano, that's the first arc. But the first major arc is when Alexia gets stolen, and she's stolen by the Coat of Diablos, basically. And, you know, she's chained up or something. No, she's tied up on like a surgery chair or whatever. And the doctor keeps getting blood from her because he thinks that her blood is the blood of the heroes that defeated the Diablos from back then. And I don't think they said what they will do with the blood. I don't remember, to be honest, so I'll just skip over that. And then that's where you're introduced to that. That's where you're introduced to that the Shadow Garden from the 7 members has upgraded to like 100 members or something. I don't remember the exact number, but they upgrade to 100 members. And I don't think like, I think I can't really tell if that's the best way to go, because maybe it would be boring if you saw like the Shadow Garden rise up, or that's the point, because Sid just thinks it's like playing around. The Shadow Garden is like a place to play around with, or a thing to play around with, but then everyone else takes it serious, so everyone else is like building up the Shadow Garden without Sid knowing or even being there, or even knowing. And so you don't actually see what they do or see the outcome of what they're doing, but you never see exactly what they're doing. So you see that out of nowhere they're like this multi-million-dollar company because they're selling like chocolates now. That's in the next arc, but so like, yeah, the Shadow Garden's now this like 100-member thing, all females, I guess. And so they find out where Alexia's being held at, and then, they go attack. And that's where you find out that the fiance, Alexia's fiance, was the bad guy all along. And I'm like, well, I knew that. But then, the fight happens, and you're like, oh, well, what is he going to do? Because you already know he's going to win. And, so then he pulls out his, finishing move, and it's the only time where he pulls out, like, a finishing move or something, is when he uses Atomic. I am Atomic, and that's probably the coolest moment of any fight throughout the whole story, so, yeah. So that's about it. Next arc is, what was the next arc? I don't actually remember. Oh my, I don't remember the next arc. Oh, was it the festival arc? It's not really a festival arc, but I think it was. Let's just say, what was it? The Alexia capture arc was kind of a long one, but it was an enjoyable one, I will say. I can't find the chapters. Well, that's embarrassing. Okay, so the chapters are the prologue, well, we'll just go to the next one, so. Oh, there we go. Two sides of the Shadow Garden. And this one starts with them making the chocolates. So Sid will tell stories to, Gamma. Because Gamma's like the weakest of the 7, of the main 7, the first original 7. And oh shit, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, Gamma's like the weakest of the original 7, so instead of using her physical attributes, she uses her mental attributes, where then she uses the stories that Sid told her from another world and uses that to make her like multi-million-dollar company. So like she makes chocolates, because chocolates don't exist in that world. She makes G-string lingerie, and they go real hard on that scene. Like, honestly, I could imagine everything. I haven't even watched the anime, and I already know. Like, he does a super good job in explaining that lingerie scene. And they make, like, perfume. I don't remember. I think they make perfume and stuff like that. And so, now, like, this company is, like, established in the capital. And hopefully we get... Oh, sorry about that. Hopefully we get to see more of it, because I did like what I saw. And so and this is where you get like that this is where the part where you see that Alexia starts to, I don't know if it's developed feelings, because maybe it's like because it's like Sid's her first friend basically, so she goes to the chocolate company to get chocolate to like reconcile with Sid, because she wanted, well, I guess she does like him. So because Alexia wanted to actually like, she said, oh, do you want to pretend date like a little bit longer? And Sid was like, no. And so like she wants to like kind of reconcile with Sid by buying the chocolate. And then Sid finds out about the chocolate, and so he goes to go get chocolate, a lot of chocolate. He goes to go get the chocolate, and then that's where you see that it's run by the Shadow Garden, and they take Sid from the line, because there's a long line for the chocolate, and then they give him like 3 boxes of free chocolate, and they give him like money, because he's the mastermind of the Shadow Garden. But he doesn't think I don't know how to explain this. I didn't really explain it too well at the beginning, but so one, he doesn't feel like, he thinks this isn't his company, even though like whatever is there is his, but because he thinks it's like, because he thinks he's playing around. Oh, not again. But anyway, because he thinks, hopefully my face didn't show, but because he thinks he's playing around and they're taking it like kind of serious by making the company. He thinks that it's their company, and so when he asks to borrow money, well, that's the thing, he borrows the money, but they're giving it to him, and so he wants to pay them back later on. And then when he's taking the money, he's taking like a handful of money, and then he's putting another handful in his pocket without anyone seeing. So he doesn't think that company is basically his. So that's why he's not automatically rich. So so that turns into, what does that turn into? The Bushin Festival. I guess that turns into the Bushin Festival, or Sherry. So we get introduced to Sherry, who's this artifact researcher or whatever, and she becomes like, and when Sid gets the chocolate, him and his friends have to give the chocolate to like girls, and every one of his friends fail, and then when Sid doesn't want to do it, he just gives the chocolate to Sherry. And Sherry Sherry doesn't know why and stuff like that, but later on, like, they become friends, and Sherry gives baked cookies to Sid, and now they're friends and stuff like that. And so then we go into the Bushin Festival, where we meet my favorite girl, underutilized in this chapter, Rose Oriana. That is the top tier girl. Not Nu, not Gamma, not Beta, not Alpha. If you're an Alpha lover, you're basic. Anyway, that's where they go, and he gets signed up for the Bushin Festival by his friends without him knowing. So he wants to back out, but everyone's getting sick or something. I don't know. I don't know why he didn't back out. Anyway, so it's the Bushin Festival, and he has to go against Rose Ariana, which is like the top girl of the school. And so that, he could beat Rose Ariana. He could beat literally anyone, but he fakes it that he gets like demolished and stuff like that. And that's where Rose Ariana's like, oh my, he's so strong. He was able to withstand like 10 of my hits and stuff like that. And so she begins to be infatuated with Sid, kind of infatuated. So, that's where their bond grows together, and she has a deep respect for being able to survive those attacks. And he gets his ass beat basically at the Bushin Festival. And that was actually my favorite part. That was my favorite part of the whole story. That was my favorite part. My second favorite part is when Sherry hears rumors about Sid and Alexia, that they're in love, but they broke up. So, but she didn't know that. So when she can't do her work until she finds out the truth. So she goes to Alexia. Like, she's the shy girl, and she cares so much about Sid. Or Sid's distracting her so much that she's able to muster up and go to the princess, Alexia. And then she confronts Alexia, saying that if they're dating or not. And Alexia's like, no, and she's like, oh, and Sherry's like, oh, thank God, and she's like, oh, I want to like. She doesn't outright say she wants to like ask him out, but she gives like hints and stuff like that, and that's where like Alexia starts like getting jealous and stuff, and then when she closes the door, you hear like a big crash, like a big break, and that was like my favorite part, or my second favorite part. Okay, well, now we go into the end game. Hopefully I didn't miss a part. We go into the end game where the Shadow Garden is being impersonated by another group. And, oh, wait, before we get to that last part, the backstories for the girls, like every one of the backstories they've given is your typical backstory. It's like, oh, my village ran me out, or my parents died at a young age, and that's where Sid saved me and stuff like that, or I was like this rotting piece of flesh and Sid saved me. So like, hopefully they give more backstory or not, because right now the girls of the Shadow Garden, like, they're just the Shadow Garden girls. They're not just the Shadow Garden girls. They're like you go like, oh, Alpha, Beta, and stuff like that. But like, when you think of Alpha, you think the Shadow Garden. So they're just stuck to the Shadow Garden right now. Or I guess that's not really a problem, because they are the Shadow Garden. So anyway, so we make it. Yeah, they're impersonating the Shadow Garden, and oh, the sun's coming up. They're impersonating the Shadow Garden, and then blah blah blah, everything happens. You get introduced to Sherry's foster father, and then you're like, that guy's bad. I hate to tell you, but that guy is bad. I already knew that from the start, and once you read to the end, that guy's bad. Oh, I'm like, oh wow, I already knew that. But I mean, if you're new to reading books and stuff like that, you'll be surprised. Well, anyway, yeah. So the Shadow Garden impersonators, they take over the school, and this is what Sid has always wanted, to be part of the school terrorist act or whatever. I don't know if I could say that, but I think that's what it was, the terrorist plan or something. Maybe I should keep that word down to a minimum, but the scene where terrorists take over the school, that's what he's always wanted, and he finally gets it. Oh, don't come over here, buddy. Please, I'm almost done. Oh, he's really gonna come over here. Oh, no, never mind. I'm good. Anyway, so that's the scene he's always wanted, and then they nullify magic, or they're taking away everyone's magic so no one can fight. And so Rosarina doesn't know this, so she tries to stand up for everyone and fight the let's call them intruders. I don't know if YouTube likes that word, so I won't be saying that word anymore. But the intruders, she confronts them, and she finds out she has no magic. So then they go and attack her, and they might kill her, as an example. But then Sid gets in the way, and he's stabbed, and that's where basically my girl Rose or Rihanna falls in love. Oh my God, what is that? Falls in love with Sid, basically. No, not exactly falls in love, but that's where everything leads up, basically. Everything that happens will lead up to her falling in love. And so Sid gets stabbed, and Rose thinks he's dead and stuff like that. And so she vows to avenge Sid. And oh wait, it is love. I just forgot. She says that you sacrifice yourself for me, and I'll give my life to you, love to you. I don't remember. I know it's, since you saved my life, I should give my heart to you. And there we go. So anyway, so Sid gets stabbed. Everyone moves from one auditorium to the other or something. And so then once everyone leaves, Rose thinks Sid's dead, but then Sid's not dead because he's Eins 2.0, basically. Or Eins in general. I don't even know. And he does everything in the background, so he finds Sherry, who has an artifact that can disable the mana eating machine, which is like the Eye of Avarice or something. I forgot what it was called, but it was something like that. And so Sid helps her, and then before Sid helps her, Sid is looking from like the background and stuff, and she's doing like a poor job of hiding and stuff, and everyone catches her, but she doesn't know that because Sid keeps killing everyone before they catch her. And so they finally meet up, and that's where they build the artifact, and she has to go, and then Sid has to go fight like the big bad villain, which is, well, not one of the big bad villains, which is Rex. And Rex is supposed to be like one of the strongest, or I don't know if one of the strongest, but one of the strongest members of yeah, that's the guy right there. He knows what's up. That guy always sees me at the park. Hopefully you guys couldn't get a good look at him, but he has a nice truck though. Anyway, he was saying hi to me right now. So where was I on? No, I was wondering why he was he was driving so slow. I was like, what, am I about to get shot up? But no. I'm in a normal ass park. I think of stuff that I'm not supposed to think, and it always gives me anxiety. But that's beyond the point. We're going off topic. Anyway, so Rex is supposed to be like one of the strongest members, or a strong member of the Cult of Diablos, but he gets his ass beat by Sid, of course. And so, like, once Rex dies, Sherry puts out the artifact that disables the Eye of Avarice, and everyone gets their magic back, and then everyone starts fighting, and then Sid comes out, then the Shadow Garden come out, everything's dealt with. I don't think, you never feel high stakes in the story, so maybe if you don't like stories that don't have high stakes, then there you go. And I mean, this is not the story for you, I guess. And so then out of nowhere, you start reading where you're at the principal's office, or the assistant principal's office, and it's Sherry's foster father, Lutheran, and you find out that he was like one of the impersonators, or the main impersonator. And then I forgot what he was talking about. Honestly, whatever that came out of his mouth, I don't think mattered, to be honest. Because he wasn't an intriguing villain. So like whatever he said about his backstory, I didn't really care. And so, so Sid kills Lutheran, and then Sherry comes out of nowhere, opens the door, sees that the mastermind, or Shadow, that's his name, Shadow, which is Sid's alias. Sherry sees that Shadow killed her father, and then that's it. It ends. That part ends right there, and then now you go to like the last part of the story, the epilogue and stuff like that. And Rose finds out that Sid's still alive, and then wait a minute. Did Alexia ever show up again? I don't think Alexia or Iris ever showed up again. They talk about like the order and stuff, like the Crimson Order, that they had to make a new order because they think the Code of Diablos is in the regular order. But other than that, I don't think they show up at the ending. I don't remember. I finished the story last night, so I don't quite remember. Well, anyway. So then Rose finds out Sid's alive, and then Sherry talks to Sid, thanking Sid for the help that he gave her during the intruder arc, let's just say. And she says that she has to go somewhere else because all the knowledge, she's done with the knowledge here, and she has to go somewhere else for more knowledge. So then she goes to another kingdom or whatever, and I forgot how it went down. Either I think Sid wanted to tell something to Sherry, but then she's like, "No, I don't want to listen to it. I have to go." And then they're like, "Oh, but will you listen to me once I come back?" Something like that. I think. Yeah, and she's like, "Yeah, I will," or Sid's like, "Yeah, I will," and then like they promise each other, and that's basically the end. So I don't know if Sherry will come in the next volume. It's gonna be a while before I get a new volume of this one. Hopefully, yeah. And that's kind of the end of the story. Yeah, this one was, because there's like a whole bunch of different stuff that happens. It doesn't follow like one concrete story arc that ends it all, or it kind of does, because everything revolves around the Code of Diablos, but I don't think the story revolved as much as the Bride of Demise. But anyway, so once you get to the end of this book, you go see, what is this, the appendix, and you just get like a description and like a visual of like Sid, Alpha, Alexia, and Sherry. And after that, you get the Chronicles of Master Shadow, complete version, volume 1. I didn't read that, but I believe it's like what Beta sees Beta sees Sid as and stuff like that. So if you want to read that, you can read that. I'll read it eventually, but not right now. And then you get the afterword. And yeah, that's pretty much it. At the afterward, you just kind of see the author begging for people to read his story. Because I don't know when this was published, but apparently the light novel industry or the manga industry was kind of down. But if he was able to survive till now, then good for him, because the manga and light novel industry are booming right now. So good on him for making it. And so yeah. Yeah, so the story was an 8 or an 8.5. My major gripes were that every villain was very weak. Like, not just in, like, physical, but, like, how they were written and stuff like that. Like, you didn't care about the villain and stuff like that. Hopefully we'll get... Well, these are just the starting villains, but for, like, a story and stuff like that, like, you didn't really care. Like, even when you knew that the main villain, Lutheran, was Sherry's foster father, like, I don't think you really cared, because for one, you find Sherry halfway through the story, and then once you make it to Sherry halfway through the story, Sherry doesn't really appear that much. So like, you're like, okay, or she kind of does appear, but they don't do enough where you should care about Lutheran, or when Lutheran dies and Sherry finds Lutheran. And then, other than that, I found the story really enjoyable. It took me like a month to read for some odd reason, but it's not because it was boring or anything. I don't know why. I was kind of busy, but, or was it a month? I don't even know. When was the last video? It probably wasn't even a month. Maybe I'm just lying, but anyway, yeah, I found the fights, I love the characters. The fights were not the best, and the premise, I like it as well. So hopefully volume 2 is even better, or just as good. Hopefully just as good, but I prefer even better than the first volume. When I'll read that, I do not know, but we'll read it eventually. And with the next stories I'll be reading, I finally found, thank you r/manga swap on Reddit. Someone sold me, what was it? Classroom Elite volumes 1 through 3, light novels, for like 25 or 20 bucks. It came with the free volume 1 of the manga, so I feel like I got a deal right there, not bad. So I'm reading the first volume of Classroom Elite, and I'll give the review whenever I'm done. I also got the omnibus for Noragami, so if I could finish that one first, I'll bring that one to you too. I haven't done a manga one, and I don't know how I'll do do like a thoughts on a manga, but we'll get there when we get there. We'll wing it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. And I guess I'll see you next time. I don't know if you guys can see my shadow right here. Woo. Hope you guys enjoyed the review, and see you next time.